And
Let's do it.
right. Welcome to the I'm a Practicing Musician podcast, where we explore what it means to be a practicing musician from perspectives spanning music educators to famous musicians. I'm your host, Jake Douglas, and our guest today is Practicing Musicians Chief Operating Officer, Stacey Swanson. Before becoming Practicing Musicians Chief Operating Officer, Stacey spent years as a music educator and in various positions in the music industry, most recently leading the National Lessons Program for Music and Arts and overseeing 41,000 students and 3,000 teachers across their 250 locations. So it has been a pleasure working with Stacey so far, and I'm excited to get on this conversation today and go over, well, whatever this ends up being. So thanks for joining me.
Happy to be here.
Yes, and so I like starting off the podcast with the same question every time, which is, in your view, what does it mean to be a practicing musician?
I think being a practicing musician is with whatever role you are, whether you're a performing musician or an industry professional within the music industry, whatever your role in the music ecosystem is, you choose it and you live by its principles. All of these roles and ecosystem together, all kind of come up to one main purpose, which is the furtherment of music loving and music learning. And it doesn't matter what your role or your niche is within that ecosystem. You are a practicing musician because what you do, whether it's accounting or performing or teaching, or in my role here within this company is operations, all of that feeds together towards one single purpose.
Mm-hmm. And so I agree completely. And so let me hear from you how, because I don't think many other people think this way, but how does being an accountant and not even necessarily playing an instrument make you a musician?
Yeah, even if you're not a player, if you have a role within the music industry, you're supporting it. So even if you're a, numbers cruncher, maybe you don't have a musical background yourself, you made that choice to be in the music industry. Maybe you just love listening to music. Maybe you have a favorite band or a favorite orchestra. And that's what drew you into, working for a music company or, in some kind of music business. And so I think we're about to have a third visitor here. This will spice up the podcast.
Oh, Tildy.
Oh, yeah.
Tildy to come on.
Oh, goodness.
What's going on there, buddy?
He's been extra needy today. There he is. Hi, buddy.
Oh, what's going on?
Yeah, he's very, very needy today.
Uh,
Anyway. So I don't know if that answered your question or
yeah,
not
no.
in terms of how does an accountant that doesn't have any background in playing an instrument, how are they a practicing musician? They're
Yeah.
supporting the company that's supporting the practicing or the performing musician.
Mm-hmm.
And all of those roles are intertwined.
Yeah.
So even if you just love listening to music, you can still be a practicing musician because you're feeding into, if you're a consumer, I'd say everyone's a practicing musician. Everybody likes listening to music. Everyone consumes art
Mm-hmm.
in some way.
Yeah. Well, and I view it in exactly the same way. And the way I describe it often is that it's like a symphony. You have all of these parts coming together for a single purpose.
Exactly.
So if you don't have
The
one of them
entire music
working,
ecosystem is its own symphony.
Yeah. If one of the parts doesn't work, then none of it works. It's the at least not as intended. And so that's the
I've lost you.
you've lost me.
Your sound is not working.
My sound is not working. My sound is coming through my microphone. Well, technical difficulties on the podcast, not an issue. This is to be expected every once in a while. Let's see, my microphone says it's picking me. You can't hear me, huh? I don't know why that would be. Hello, hello. Well, uh-oh. Should I try and leave and come back? I don't think I can try and leave and come back. Let's see.
Yes.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes. I don't know what that was about.
I don't know. I could hear you the whole time, so that's strange. But we're
No.
and that accountant, I guess, quit his job for a little bit there. So
Yeah, there was a glitch. There was a
yeah,
glitch in the music ecosystem.
yeah. But the music will go
Uh,
on now. So yeah, I mean, I view it largely the same way, and it's very interesting to think about. That's one of the reasons why there's been so much research done into the benefits of music that are transferable into interpersonal relationships and workplace and education, kind of everywhere. Um, which that is a good way to transition into some of your history as a music student when you were growing up. Can you tell me how you got started playing music? Because you are not someone who just is in the industry. You do play instruments and you've taught. So let's go through some of your history here.
I started becoming an instrumental musician, just as I'm sure tens of thousands of students every year, maybe even hundreds of thousands of students. They get a flyer, they get a notification in the mail that there's going to be an instrument tryout night to join the band or the orchestra. Typically, that goes from the transition from like a fifth grade to sixth grade. I know there are some areas that start band or orchestra even as early as fourth grade. But for me, it was sixth grade. Went to the instrument tryout night with my mom, who does not play an instrument at all. She's a music appreciator. She loves listening to music. And so we went in not knowing or really having any inclination as to what, if I would have any aptitude for, any of the instruments. And I seemed to immediately take to the flute. And so I started playing the flute in sixth grade. And the reason and the way that they do it is they take the head joint and they kind of go, down the row and let everybody try to, make a sound with just that one piece. And typically, if a sound could come right out,
You
you
got
kind
it.
of, yeah, you got it. You're going to be able to do it. If it takes some finagling around the face, it does present some challenges. Not impossible though. So I played flute all the way through middle school. And then when I transitioned into high school, I definitely still committed. I wanted to be a part of the band. So I started out as a freshman year playing the flute. But the makeup of the band, the high school band at that time, the instrumentation was a little off. There were way too many flutes and not enough other instruments. And so the my band director in high school asked me in ninth grade if I would consider, oh no, is that true? It's been a long time ago, Jake.
Not that
I
old.
don't want to say how long ago it was. It's gonna age. Um, yeah, it was ninth grade. It was ninth grade, yeah. Where a band director basically said, hey, we've got too many flutes. You're now going to play the bassoon. Here's the bassoon. And I didn't know anything about the instrument. Actually, he gave me a bassoon and a Standard of Excellence book one. And so go to town, go learn how to play it, and then you'll come in next week or 2 weeks from now and you'll start playing that instrument. And
Okay.
so I went from being a fairly good flute player to being a really terrible bassoon player, like
Bassoon and
truly
flute are
terrible.
not the same at all for people who are listening. These are not the same type of instruments, and you don't make a sound the same. Nothing is the same.
No, no, the bassoon is probably like 10 times bigger than the flute. So it takes, it's debatable how much more or less air, because flute takes a lot of air too.
Yeah.
Um, but I went from like being like third chair flute to like being this only bassoon player, sounded terrible. Um, and I was actually ready to quit. Like I had given it that year and then I was not going to do it anymore. I hated it. I sounded terrible. He was not going to let me go back to the flute, too many flutes. And so it was my mom who, my sister was also like in the orchestra in high school. And so she had a great relationship with the orchestra director and said, I can't believe that my daughter's ready to quit band. Like, what should we do? And, he said, well, what instrument is it? It's a bassoon. He's like, oh, that's a really difficult instrument. Nobody knows how to play it. And she's like, I know. And, and he said, well, I know a bassoon teacher, and it sounds like maybe she just needs some private lessons.
Mm.
And so she got me signed up with some private lessons and, short story now, very long. I had taught myself completely wrong. There is this thing about being self-taught. A lot of people say, I'm self-taught musician. I am not. I should never have been a self-taught musician.
Well, you
Um,
can't really do it with a method book. I mean, you can't see somebody practice it like it's a little different now, but yeah, it's
exactly. And I'm going to really
yeah.
severely date myself here. There
Okay.
was not like the internet readily available. I didn't have a computer in my house until I was a senior in high school. Like we didn't even have a computer. We had a typewriter.
Oh, it must have been like Civil War era. Like, what the heck?
Hey, ignorance is bliss sometimes. And so it's not like I could go on YouTube. I don't even think YouTube existed yet. Didn't that start up in like 2004?
2006.
Something, right.
Yeah.
So this is before even that.
Hmm.
And and so there's no, I mean, real ways to like consume and learn
Yeah.
in a multimedia format at that time. And so anyway, I started taking these private lessons, and within the next year, I'd made the county honor band. And so the power of private lessons is like amazing. And throughout my career, I've kind of retold this same story to a number of people. And I think oftentimes, especially if you're in the music industry or you're a teacher or music educator, teach privately, or if you're, a professional or even just a really good musician, we tend to take for granted that a lot of people actually don't know what they need or don't know what to do. And so I always kind of recount this, you know, decades have gone by, and I finally thought to call my mom and ask her what made her put me in lessons. And
Mm,
other than the fact that the orchestra teacher um recommended it, she said, I'll never forget it, I was just waiting for someone to tell me what to do. And that
that's
to me really changed my whole perception of learning music, being a musician, and all that. So I know that was kind of like got me up to like high school in terms of like how I got my start. But I didn't ask my mother that question until I was working at Music and Arts with lessons.
yeah.
And I was, kind of constantly mulling over why people, have that initial love for music and they come in and they're like, I want to learn how to play the guitar. And then like something happens and then they don't. Or what is the motivator to get people to sign up? He's being
Yeah.
a excuse me. Um, and once she said that, I was like, oh, that makes sense. That, we have to kind of always think 101 with especially with parents of musicians, because they tend to probably not know
Hmm.
what the student might need.
Well, and that I'm sure was a profound realization for you. It sounds like even more so than your mom, and what may
Oh
have
yeah.
led you into music education, or I don't know when exactly she told you that, but deepened your advocacy efforts, because you are a strong advocate for music education, not just in your career, but in just in everyday life. So, how do you say that played into your advocacy and career?
Well, it made me kind of step back. When you're in the music space and you're immersed in the music space, we tend to not like step out of that space, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. And so I kind of went like way up, like 40,000 foot view. So did Tildy. You went up there with me. And saw kind of the big picture. Let's give this a break. The big picture of people tend to, it's gonna sound a bit harsh, but people appreciate being told what they need.
Yeah.
And it became kind of this, it wasn't just an advocacy mantra, but in that phase of my career and in my life, it kind of became a sales mantra
Hmm.
too. Each customer, which is typically a parent or a student that comes into the store, they likely don't know what they need. That's why they came.
Yeah.
And they want guidance and they want that help. They want that recommendation. So we can't really, think of it as in I'm selling lessons
Yeah.
for the salespeople, but I am providing this person what they need. That can be attributed to the instrument, to their accessories, to that, sheet music book, wanting to learn Taylor Swift or whatever. I'm giving them what they need. And then
Mhm.
sometimes people don't know what they need.
Yeah.
You have to tell them. And and that also transfers into the realm of being in a classroom or being in the private studio setting as well. Oftentimes as educators, we might think, oh, well, I can't recommend, lessons because lessons cost money.
Hmm.
And if I, recommend them, but they can't afford it, like we have to like turn that part off.
Hmm.
Recommending something that they need. And it's really up to, the parent, the guardian, the grown up to decide. But
Yeah.
you've, which we weren't telling them before.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think that that's negative or seems bad at all. There's the unconscious incompetence. There's a lot of people that you don't know what you don't know.
That's it.
So it's nobody's fault. It's just that we aren't born with all the information and how-to guides and all these things. And personally, I don't think that our educational system does a great job of teaching people how to learn. So when it's like, well, how do I even go about starting this process? They've
Mhm.
never learned to even ask that question because that's not what we learn in school. We learn this is how I do this thing in this particular scenario. And a lot of the times people, well, we know that kids don't learn that way. Very many kids learn that way. And so it doesn't have practical application in their lives. So yeah, I think it's a critical insight that you are able to have, I suppose, when your mom said that to you. And
Mhm.
so after you graduated from high school, you went to college for bassoon performance, interestingly enough, because that was something that you were kind of forced into, it sounds like.
Um,
Not the college, the playing the bassoon.
well, when you play the bassoon, you tend to get opportunities that other people might not get because nobody plays it. So yeah, I was able to, fortunate enough to receive a scholarship for bassoon.
Hmm.
I also majored in music education. I did a double major. And went on.
Overachiever, overachiever.
Well,
I'm kidding.
but a lot of people tack on and, education or a minor in performance or,
Yeah.
those two things kind of go hand in hand, at a lot of universities. Yeah, so I ended up doing both of those. And after college, I got a teaching gig, strangely enough, right in my hometown where I grew up
Nice.
at a local high school. So it was fate. I knew the area. I even knew some of the people already, so that was really fortunate. Um, and I did that for a few years, and then I decided that I wanted to learn more about becoming a better educator. So I ended up getting, again, the bassoon, a really good opportunity at the University of Miami, where I did my master's work in music education. But I played a lot of bassoon.
Yeah. Frost School of Music is a great school too.
Oh, they're amazing. They're amazing. At the time, um, I think what I was struck by the most is that it was smaller. Like University of Georgia at the time, it's grown a lot, up until today. But at the time, University of Georgia, I think it was about 40,000 students. I mean, it's much more now.
Wow.
And at that time that I was getting my master's work completed, I think University of Miami was about 8,000
Yeah.
students. And most people don't know that it's a private university. It's not a public university. So very high tuition, all of that. But that of the 8,000, it was 50% undergraduate and 50% graduate. So it was really a university that was like a grad school.
Yeah.
And so I, was really able to make a lot of friends that were, also getting their master's degree or their PhD or their, DMA, that type of thing. A lot of the ensembles that I had the pleasure of playing in were mostly graduate students.
Hmm.
And so I never played better in my life than when I was at Frost
Nice.
because you were just around so much talent.
Yeah. Yeah, I visited their campus 2 years ago when I was down in Miami training the Miami educators.
Mhm.
They're in service, a beautiful campus and amazing students, the ones that I met who were going there. And um, so, and it's interesting to have 50% grad students. I mean, typically it's, I don't know, 10% or
It's
less.
not very high, no.
Yeah. Yeah, my the small school experience I've got to say was amazing for me. In my college, I didn't do a master's program, but my bachelor's program and our school, we had technically Claremont Graduate Studies, but it was like so small. Um, there's 5 schools, all part of the consortium, and total there's 6,000 students. My school was less than 1,000.
Yeah, I
And
believe.
that type of dynamic is really conducive to learning. And so it sounds like you had a great experience now. So you did masters in music education,
Mhm.
and then you went back to teaching, or
Well, I wanted to go back into teaching. So right around the time, again, I'm dating myself. I'm not going to say these years because it's just going to make me look old. But around the time that I graduated was during this time frame of No Child Left Behind.
yeah,
And so that was the Bush era education policy that focused on reading and math. And so what happened, at least where I was living, I know every state, every community is going to be a little bit different, but in the area that I was living in, which was Georgia, they were not necessarily cutting music programs, but maybe cutting all the assistant band directors
yeah,
instead of, and so now there's just one teacher instead of two. Um, and people were definitely like sticking around in the role that they had. Because oftentimes, especially in the music education space, once there's like the end of the school year, every once in a while, it's just kind of like, let's throw all the pieces up and see where people land, what new school they end up at. And there's kind of just these little, shuffles of, okay, this person went here, so now this person can apply and go here, and it moves around. And that's pretty common to see those little shuffles happen. And it was not happening. People were staying put in their positions. And so that's a very long-winded way to say I could not get a job. And so, here I am with this fresh new degree. I actually had a principal at an interview tell me, why would I hire you and have to pay you at this certain pay tier? I think it was called T4, T5, I can't remember. But for one of you, I could get 2 teacher aides for math. And I was like, okay.
yeah. That's absurd.
Like why would I do that? Like in some of these instances, having a master's degree was a negative.
Yeah,
Because again, everybody's got, a budget or, they call like one of me would be a point. And so why would I devote a point to this at a T5 salary when I can just use 2 half points and get extra math help? Because again, it was that time that math and writing, that was like STEM, not STEAM kind of era.
yeah,
Um, and so anyway, I needed to earn some money and get a job. And so I walked into a local music store one day because I had been private teaching. Like I taught through my master's degree. I taught, you know, private lessons on the side when I was a band director. So I'm like, well, I can do that. That's easy enough.
hmm,
Um, I've been doing this the whole time. So I walked into a music store and asked if there were any teaching positions open that, I was a private teacher, lots of experience, whatever. And the manager who was there at the time was like, oh yeah, we're always looking for teachers. What instrument do you teach? And I said, well, I teach the bassoon. And they said, well, we are looking for any instrument except for that.
You might get one student.
Exactly. It's all about filling up that room. So he said, well, we're not really looking for that, but we are looking for a full-time sales position. Would you be interested in interviewing for that? And I said, no, I'm not interested in that.
Yeah.
But, but he would not stop talking and somehow got me convinced to come in the next day, which I did. And then before you know it, now I'm a salesperson.
Well, there you go. So that was that the local music store, A Music and Arts.
It was a music and arts.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
it
this
was.
is, and so this started your career in retail, and that is where you stayed, at least that, not that physical location, but with that company for the rest of your career in retail.
Yes, yeah. I mean, that was for, I'm doing the year math in my head because I'm not going to say the year because then I'll look old. Um,
Well, if it's right after the Civil War, it's like after
13 years. 13 years.
13 years at Music and Arts, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, in a variety of different capacities.
Okay, and what capacities were those?
Okay. I was kind of all over the place. So I started out in, in a retail location, um, full-time sales position, eventually worked my way up to being a manager of a location. After I had done that for about a year, the company had decided that they wanted to have a position at their corporate office, which was located in Maryland. They wanted to have a full-time kind of just lessons person. There wasn't really a job description for it at all because all of these stores up until this point were kind of just managing their lesson programs however they wanted to. And so they wanted to create a role that was centralized, that was going to kind of bring all of these lesson programs and kind of make them into like one.
Mhm.
So I was lucky enough to get that role. So then I moved to Maryland and did that for a while. Ended up meeting my husband and getting married and starting a family. During that time, there was an interim break where I decided I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom for a while, especially when my daughter is a baby into being a toddler. That was super important to me, but the company was very good to me. They offered me part-time work from home, kind of contractor type opportunities. I worked with the marketing department. I worked with business process management. I was doing QA on the music and arts website. I was still working very part-time, even though I was at home with my daughter. So even through that interim, I was still involved with music and arts and very current with what they were doing because I was, editing their marketing materials and, looking at what's on the website and what the big sales are and all that. So I was very, in tune with what they were doing. So when I decided that I was kind of ready to step back in to, a full-time role, my daughter was a little bit older, could go into daycare easily, that type of thing. I actually ended up, and this is where I kind of found my passion for operations, because before up until that time, it was all very like, salesy and, being extroverted and, getting, a whole team of people to, sell and make their goals and that type of thing. I came into what they called sales support. So this is the team of people that are at the corporate office that help to support. It's not customer service, it's not customer facing, it's like store facing, like the store is having some sort of, technical issue, or, I'm working with this customer and the register is not letting me do X, Y, or Z, that type of troubleshooting. So I did that for a little while, and then I got promoted to become the manager of their affiliate operations program. So affiliate for music and arts in the realm that I was working with, it's not like affiliate marketing where you get links and you're putting a banner, it's different. So an affiliate for music and arts, from a music instrument rental perspective, what would happen is, let's say I'm a small mom and pop music store and I would like to begin a rental program for my community. Currently doesn't have one. I'd like to start it, but I don't have the inventory or the capital to be able to like buy a whole fleet of instruments that I can then rent out to customers for their beginning band program, or that type of thing. And so you can become an affiliate with Music and Arts, and Music and Arts will provide you with the rental fleet of instruments. You rent them, you maintain them, you handle all the paperwork, and then you get like a commission for all the payments or whatever. And so I was managing like the back end operations of that with a team of people. And that's when I kind of found this passion for like efficiency and, good processes within a company. And I really, looking back on it, there were components of that were very stressful, because it could be that something had been done a certain way for 30 years, and then you identify that, well, we could probably just do that in 3 steps instead of 10 steps. And that level of change management comes with, different people or different businesses reacting in different ways. And I was like the person that they were talking to about all of that. But looking back, that's probably the proudest that I've been in any of my career, was to be able to make people or to provide more seamless experiences for those affiliates in terms of, their inventory and, how they process their paperwork. There was even one instance, and this is going to sound really silly, but I was really proud of this one. So I was getting calls, all the time about they're getting a bill, but they have no idea what it's for. Like it would say like a dollar amount. And they're like, I don't know what it is. And I'm like, I don't know either. And so it turned out that all we needed to do, and this was a totally different department, like the person who cuts the bills, the invoices, they just need to put like, there's a free text field that says, this is what this is for.
Yeah.
And they had never done it.
Yeah.
And so it was just like that simple change, cut calls in half, in terms of like, I'm having a problem, and then it cut the calls by like 50%.
Yeah.
Because they could solve their own problem. It's just right on there. It describes what it
A lot of
is.
money.
Exactly. And so then I did that for a while, and then before I actually joined you, I had shifted back into the lessons arena. Had the pleasure of working side by side with one other person. I had half the country, she had the other half of the country. And that's when we were able to really reach some really fun milestones like that 40,000 students, type of thing, biggest enrollment day in the history of the company. Those moments were really fun.
Nice.
Yeah, and then COVID happened.
Yeah.
And like so many people, you're sitting at home, you're pondering the mysteries of life, and I just was like, I think I want to try something different.
Yeah. Yeah. And I saw you post that you were going to take a break, and I said, no, I want you to work with me. And you said, I need a break. And then a few
I
days later,
had a
okay, fine.
I had a week off. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Well, we needed help, and you came in and you did a great job. So it's exactly what was needed at that time. And I don't think it sounds. I don't. Your solution doesn't sound silly. What is silly is that wasn't done before. And there's a great Elon Musk interview where he's talking about during the Hell Week in their manufacturing plants, and he's going around. Not Hell Week. It was 3 years he lived in the plants as his primary residence, and he'd go from one assembly line to the next. And he started being like, "Hey, what is this?" And they'd be like, "Well, this is needed for this department." So then he'd call over to the other department and be like, "Okay, they say that you need this part in here. What is this?" And they'd be like, "We don't know what this part is." And he just started taking parts out of the car that literally had no purpose at all. And the reason that they were there is because Ford and Chrysler and all these different
Uh-huh.
companies had been doing it for 100 plus years, putting these parts into the cars that are completely unnecessary. And that every time you create a new part, that's more time, more money. And so the process goes slower. And he said there were dozens of parts that they literally took out of the car that had served no purpose. And nobody ever questioned it. And so, it
Yeah,
seems it is silly that is a thing, but the people who identify those things are the people that I want to be working with. So,
I mean, frankly, those people should get a raise. I'm just saying.
I mean, how about a 200% raise from what I can do right now? Yeah,
That's great.
no, well, we'll be changing the dynamic of everything here very soon. We're in an exciting time. And we actually didn't meet because of your role at Music and Arts. You were working at another International Music Education Summit.
Oh, right. Yeah, I was helping run it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was behind the scenes, helping teachers and presenters with their material, making sure that their webinar was working as expected, doing little trials before they go on. So no, that was a fun experience too. That was just purely for fun.
Okay.
I had never done anything like that before.
Yeah. And Elisa
And
did
you
some great.
presented, right?
I did present. Yeah. It was a good experience. I don't even remember what my session was on. I've done so many sessions, but yeah, it was a fun platform, and Elisa did a great job putting everything together. So now that's you've done a lot in your career and just in the music space in general, not even in your career.
Mhm.
Um, what are you most excited about being on the practicing musician team to do?
Well, it's interesting because Gil's asked me that question like a long while back. I think when he had just kind of started, helping out and he was talking to each person.
Mhm.
And for me, and this is what I told him, and I will relay that here. What drew me into this type of role with this type of company was the prospect of people, students, adults, whatever, that would not otherwise have access to learning a musical instrument outside of being self-taught, YouTube.
Yeah.
That's what excited me, because then the prospect of creating more music makers goes way up. It becomes completely equitable for anyone, right? And then the more of a pool you have of practicing musicians, then over time, the richer and the larger, the more comprehensive the total ecosystem is.
Yeah.
So right now we're dealing relatively with, this amount.
Yeah.
And if we can truly like burst the bubble on anybody, because it's free, anyone can do this. Anyone can learn, and turning this to this, and then, how many more performing artists will we have? How many more musical accountants will we have? How many more repair technicians will we have? The ecosystem becomes full. And right now it's not full,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's totally true. That's, that's right. I was pitching it from that perspective for quite a while. When I first pitched this company, I wasn't even the person who came up with that pitch. I pitched it to a family friend. He was the chief entertainment officer for Microsoft for a long time. They own the house next door to us. And or they bought it so they could come stay here every summer from Japan because they've been family friends for a long time. Uh, but he said, I pitched him the idea and he took the napkin. We're at Spiro's Pizza and Pasta. If anybody's in Shoreline, go to Spiro's. It's awesome. But but he took the napkin off the table and he's like, so this is what you're trying to do. This is the music industry. I was like, yeah. And then he like opened it up. He's like, this is what you're doing to it. I was like, yeah, I suppose. And that's where I got that idea of like, because it is currently a closed system where there's not enough funding to provide the access to the education, and the traditional private lessons are very expensive, a lot of people can't participate. And so it's this chicken and egg issue where you need to actually sell more products to grow the industry, to have the money to put into the arts funding. But if you don't have people that engage in the arts education, then you don't sell the products because they don't learn how to use them. And so it's like, well, how do we actually grow this thing without relying on the public school education? Not only that, but public school education is focused on very narrow genres of music, which are not directly aligned with student interests. So it's like, how do we actually convince people like they'd be interested in music, but we're not offering things that are aligned with what they prefer to listen to. So it's not like, oh, I really want to learn how to play my favorite artist songs. It's like, I gotta go and be forced to play bassoon. Like, and it's, I mean, it worked out for you, but for a lot of kids, they'd be like, no, no, I don't want to do that. And so, but we've been insistent on maintaining those programs. So, that's really interesting, and it is good to hear that. One of the things I'm most excited about is finding. I think it is some of those dynamics, just like you mentioned with the putting the line item name next to the actual price, so then people aren't confused. If we can align with our service with the interests of the people, it seems so obvious. It's like, okay, well, if we can provide kids with education that they actually want to engage in, then you don't have to convince them to enroll. But for some reason, it hasn't been done. Like,
Yeah, I was gonna piggyback off of what you said. It's like, yeah, it seems obvious, but it's not.
yeah,
And there was always this analogy when it comes to changing something that's really big or has been around for a long time.
Hmm.
Established practice. We've been doing this for 30 years, or, we have all these state standards, and that means that we're learning Mozart and that's it. I compare that to trying to move a cruise ship with a pencil. Like you just keep tapping it.
Yeah.
It does move like a micromillimeter each time you do it.
Yeah.
But eventually it does redirect itself.
In my experience, it's often that the lead just breaks.
Also be true. Then you use the eraser side and you just keep poking.
Oh man, it's such a simple solution. Why didn't I think of that?
Yeah, yeah. But don't we as humans tend to like overthink and overcomplicate?
Yeah, yeah, there's a really good, my favorite artist, Steven Wilson. He's got a song called Arriving Somewhere But Not Here. And it's about just being dissatisfied where with the place that you are in life. And one of the great lines is all my plans compromised and all my designs simplified and all of my dreams uh amplified. So he's talking about like I planned on all this complex stuff, and then when I simplified it, then my dreams were amplified. And it's just so brilliant, like brilliant understanding of the spiritual dynamic. And there's too many people that don't think like that. And I'm certainly guilty of making things more complex than they need to be. But one of the things that I would be interested in hearing your thoughts about, because this came up on Tuesday in a conversation I was having, which is as you know, I'm very much into the data. I can list off numbers and all this research and all this stuff, and most people don't care about that. And one of the things that bothers me about this is when I talk with executives, not just in the music industry, but looking all over at people that I've talked with, education, healthcare, financial systems, and they tell me something, and it's like using buzzwords, and then I dive deeper and try and get answers from them, and they don't have any actionable plans to do what they're saying.
That sounds like politics.
Yeah. I think we have more politicians in positions of business as well, uh, because there isn't that depth of understanding. And one of the things that I came to realize is if I explain all of this is where the conversation led at least, which is if I explain all of those things outright, then I'm turning people off. But if I utilize the buzzwords and I latch onto the feelings that people have, and then when people question me, then I actually have the answers, then that's really the way to go. So it's the complexities actually necessary to make it simple is I think the reduced down realization that I had, because the simple without the complexity is not really going to go anywhere necessarily, because you don't understand why anything's actually being done. Like you don't understand, like people are just looking at this thing. It's like, oh, well, it says the price, right? That's simple. And people are, and they don't make the connection because they don't have the understanding of the complexity of the actual issue, which is people are calling about this exact same thing every single time. And this exact same thing could be solved with this solution. So anyways, I'm interested to hear your thoughts on the complexity versus simplicity issue and how they tie together in your experience.
I agree with you in that oftentimes, and I'm sure that this is common for every, you know, mid to large scale business. Like, doesn't have to be in the music industry, it's just business in general.
Mhm.
That over the course of time, we just keep bolting on new things. Like it's a new process or a new team or a new that, or, and so over time, you have this business that has all of these little pieces of gum stuck to it
Yeah.
instead of stepping back and saying, why do we have 100 pieces of gum stuck to our underneath our desk? The desk is the business. why do we have 100 pieces of gum?
Mm-hmm.
Instead, it's easier to just add more gum.
Mm.
And that's what I view as complexity.
Mm-hmm.
When wouldn't it be easier if we
Just take the
just,
gum off the table and reuse it.
well, oh, that's yucky. That's yucky.
That's a
Um, like in all senses. Um, but did we need the 100, or can we remove the 100 and just put one there? But the one solves all of the other 99 issues. What is it? Got 99 problems?
but 99 pieces of gum aren't one.
Well, no, I can't say the other half of the lyric is Kanye West.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. And so I think when companies, and like, aren't we victim to that as well?
Yeah.
We're working on that right now.
Well,
We have
that's what,
all of these like separate little pieces of gum that
yeah.
we've developed
Hmm.
time, and we're working towards getting the 100 down to 5.
Yeah.
The
Well, and I
desk
think,
is gonna be great. It's gonna look great underneath.
yeah. Well, I do think that that is largely the direction I was heading, which is the complexity is necessary to then get to the simplicity. But there's all sorts, like with the Elon Musk example, 100 years of people putting in parts that aren't even necessary, literally do nothing, and in fact probably make it worse. Uh, the fact that it's just getting comfortable, like, oh well, this thing works,
I
so
agree.
my
Yeah, it
version
works.
of,
So why am I gonna fix it?
yeah, like this is simple because it works. It's like, no, but it could be much simpler. It's almost like that simplicity is part of the complexity. And the thing that I've realized talking with Hawk, because I don't know a lot about technology, like, so when I'm listening to him, he talks about all of these things, and he knows about all of these things, and then it's just going to be one very simple thing that we actually end up doing,
Mhm.
and it should all be fully integrated. And so that's, yeah, that's what I really appreciate about when you see something like Canva is the most brilliant software I've ever used, and it grew to, like, in 9 years, $40 billion. And why
Oh,
is it? Because every single it, like FedEx uses it, like all of the major companies use it as their design now. Um, why is that? Well, it's because you literally, like, down to the fact that when you create an account, it doesn't say create an account or log in. It's just one, and it checks to see if you have an account. Like that tiny little switch of, well, now I don't have to choose one. I just click this one button, and then it does it for me in the back end. As a
mhm.
user, that tiny little switch is
About
brilliant.
that, but it does do that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then from everything to, well, I've got all these templates. I don't even have to choose the colors. I can put my brand kit in and shuffle the colors, and it'll change it
Mhm.
however it ends up doing it. And then I get to choose one. I don't have to, like, go through and change every little element in design. So these are the, this is one of the reasons, and I know we got to wrap up soon. But this is one of the reasons I'm so excited to work with you, and I'm glad that we got to go through your history and whatnot. And I learned a little bit more than I knew before. But it is important for people listening at home, whether right now or when we cut up the different pieces into smaller sound bites, so that we can, uh, I guess, manipulate people into thinking what we want them to think. I don't know. Instead of seeing the long form content, no, we never do that. We're putting the whole thing out every single time. But the yeah, it is important to understand that there's, like, what I was trying to get at with this podcast is Stacey's gone through a whole lot of different changes throughout her career, and that has led to the position that she can be taking right now, which is to oversee the vision of operations for a company like what we're building and what we have already built, but what we're going to build into a much larger company. And
Yeah.
this is it is very, very important for anybody listening at home to understand too that this is in a way almost like a conductor, right? You've done all the different, you've worn all the hats, you can play most of the different instruments in the business sector, and now it's helping direct and conduct the rest of the
Yeah,
symphony.
that's an interesting analogy. But
Yeah.
yes, yeah, I've been very fortunate to have been given a myriad of very different opportunities that
Mm,
have allowed me to make more wrinkles in my brain.
I love getting wrinkles in my brain.
Wrinkly brains.
Better than wrinkles on my face. So
Uh,
and they're so close together. You'd think that we wouldn't have judge one over the other, but we do. So
yes.
anyways, thank you, Stacey. Is there anything you want to close out this podcast with?
Stick with music. Anyone can be a practicing musician. It's never too late. And regardless of if you're a college student or you're a high school student, regardless of what you want to be when you grow up, you have a space in the music industry. You can have a career. You can pursue what you love, whether that be finance or architecture or history. There is a space for you in the music ecosystem. So please come back.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. And I'd love to have you back on the podcast again. I know we did the joint podcast with Margot already, but I feel like we have a lot more to talk about one-on-one as well. So we'll have to make that happen. And with that, I'm going to end the stream. Thank you everybody for watching.